Hello, Bulldogs. It's Mr. Copperwood again this week with Bulldogs in the Workforce from the Counseling Office at Lamar's Community High School. This week we are featuring 2006 LCHS graduate Meggie Mapes. And Meggie is currently a professor of communication studies at the University of Kansas. So again, just shows that we're featuring Bulldogs who are all over the country right now. So that's pretty interesting. Meggie, like a lot of our previous speakers during the course of the year so far, while she was in high school, was involved in a lot of different activities. She was involved in debate, speech, volleyball, tennis, and also yearbook. And interestingly, with debate, I don't know the exact year, but she would have probably been on one of the last debate teams that Lamar's community had before debate was no longer offered. But the other activities, as you can see, though, are still going strong. And I think some of the background that she had with speech and debate, particularly, have helped her in communication studies. And so she'll be talking to you a little bit about that today. And importantly enough for all of you as students right now, being a good public speaker and being able to communicate is very important. And when you listen to Maggie, you can tell right away that Maggie is a very good public speaker, very polished, and that's very impressive. So never underestimate the value of being a great public speaker. So she'll be talking a little bit about that today, as well as some other career opportunities that communications would offer you if you had communications as a major, when you're in college. So Meggie Mapes here with us today from University of Kansas, a 2006 LCHS graduate. Again, showing that the commonality with a lot of our speakers, has been they're involved and they were in a lot of activities while they were in high school. So that's a good thing for all of you to stay active as well. So Meggie Mapes with Bulldogs in the Workforce again this week. 2006 LCHS graduate from the Counseling Office at Lamar's Community High School, always trying to improve our college and career readiness.
Hi, fellow Bulldogs. My name is Meggie Mapes. I graduated from LCHS in 2006, and I am a professor of communication studies at the University of Kansas. I'm a Kansas Jayhawk. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I got here, my educational background, and some of the key things that I do, not only in this job, but in previous jobs that I've held that really center and relate to communication. So when I left LCHS, graduated in 2006, I first did my undergraduate degree in communication studies, and I finished that in St. Cloud State, which is in St. Cloud, Minnesota. After that, I went to Illinois, to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, and I did 2 additional degrees. So in order to become a faculty member or professor, especially at a 4-year university that really focuses on research, they require that you have a doctorate or PhD. So I first did my master's degree in communication studies, which is a 2-year degree. And during that time, that's when I first started to teach. So I received a graduate teaching assistantship and started to teach undergraduate students about public speaking, about business and professional communication. And following that master's degree, I actually stayed at SIU to finish out my PhD, which generally takes about 4 years. After I concluded with my PhD, I moved to Kansas City with my partner, where we currently live in Kansas City, Missouri, and took a job at the University of Kansas doing communication work. So my first role, before I transitioned into a faculty or a professor position, was to really focus on what we call communication and advancement. So on the communication side, that means writing press releases about stuff that was happening. I wrote speeches for the dean of libraries specifically, helped with publications, so publicizing and advertising some of the really cool stuff that was being done on campus. And on the more advancement side, that meant really trying to connect with alumni and possible donors to help them become invested in initiatives and ideas that were happening on campus. For example, there's been a really great initiative at KU that focuses on what's called open textbooks or free textbooks. So we really worked to do outreach with parents of students to say, hey, do you think you could donate a few dollars to try to help this campaign? That's meant to get faculty members and other teachers to consider using books in their classes that are free. Because even though you might not yet have experienced the cost of textbooks, that is something that comes with transitioning into college. So that first job, again, really focused on communication, public PR work, and strategic communication, and advancement work for the libraries. I also have done social media work, and so I have created Facebook ad campaigns for an external marketing company, assisted with creating some graphics, writing what we call copy, which is how can you think about your potential audience and what kind of language or communication would be best in order to get them to understand the product or idea that company has. And so, like all forms of communication, your goal is to really think about the context that you're going to be communicating in and think about who you're going to be communicating with, because those are the components that really dictate whether or not you're going to be an effective communicator. In 2017, though, I transitioned into a faculty role in the Department of Communication Studies, where I am currently also what's called our introductory course director. In that role, not only do I teach and do research, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I also oversee and supervise all of the public speaking and business public speaking across the University of Kansas. So public speaking is a required course that all students at the University of Kansas have to take. And many of you may be lucky that you have some good training before you get into college, where many people don't. There are about 3,000 students every year that take those courses. So my role is to train any new graduate students or any instructors that come in. I supervise them, and then I also select things like the textbook, how many speeches are going to happen. I do course observations, and I do assessment. So I see what's working and what's not working across all of those sections and with all of those students. I also do research. So if you're interested in becoming a faculty member, you are able to focus predominantly on teaching. There are some institutions like community colleges or other four-year teaching institutions where you can really focus on teaching. At the University of Kansas, because it's a research institution, I also conduct research. So if you're interested in, asking questions about the world, research is something that you could really consider, not just in communication studies, but in any field. So for me right now, I'm really interested in the prison system, and I'm teaching a class that really looks at communication and policing and communication and crime. And I am going into one of the correctional facilities near where I live to try to get some data and try to answer some questions that I'm wondering about in terms of what's happening with the world and how communication plays a particular role. All of that is to say that if you're interested in communication, there are lots of opportunities, from speech writing to PR work, to doing strategic communication work, to also teaching or doing research. And even if you aren't necessarily interested in communication, if you are interested in things like teaching and research, then thinking about an undergraduate place that can really set you up to become a successful graduate student, to go on to a master's granting institution or to get your PhD would be possible. I know that LCHS really does equip you all to become successful in whatever you decide to do. And so I wish you all the best of luck.